Chapter 11. What do you mean you can't go out? It's been 3 weeks, Brie. 3 weeks since we've hung out. Brie sighed and pinched her nose. She knew she hadn't been spending as much time with Ariel, but she had gotten accepted into the nutrition program at the local college and was spending a few nights a week in class. Brie generally spent the other evenings with Jesse when he was off work or researching when he wasn't, and work filled her days. Besides, after everything that had happened in the last 3 weeks, she didn't feel she had as much in common with Ariel anymore. Her father still hadn't reinstated her credit cards, so shopping trips were out of the question. And honestly, she didn't feel the need to go shopping anyway. She felt the need to purge some of her items. She worked nearly every morning, something Ariel had no concept of, and she had committed her life to Christ. So parties no longer held any meaning for her. I know, Ariel, and I'm so sorry, but I've got work and school and Jesse. I knew this was about Jesse, Ariel seethed, cutting her off. I should never have suggested the bet. I thought you would have a little fun, but he's changed you. Now you're no fun at all. I'm fun, just in a different way. Look, you want to hang out with me? Come to church with me tomorrow. Brie glanced at her watch. She was going to have to cut this short as her break was almost over. Church? Are you listening to yourself? Who are you? Ariel, I have to get back to work, but I would like to see you. I get off at 4 if you want to get together before you go out tonight. Yeah, we'll see. The phone went dead in Brie's ear, and she shook her head and pushed the phone back in her pocket. Everything okay? Matt asked as she entered the break room. Yeah, just my friend. She doesn't like the changes I've made recently. Well, I have to say you have proved to be a model employee. I was a little worried when I first hired you, but you have definitely improved since you've been here. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you giving me a chance. I better get back to work now. Break's over. She flashed a small wave and headed back to the counter. Matt was nice, but as they were about the same age, she didn't want to give him any suggestions she might be interested. As she took her position behind the counter again, Brie thought about her conversation with Ariel. Was she going to lose her best friend? Jesse whistled as he packed up his gear for the night. It had been another nice day with no crazy calls and no shots fired at them. You seem pretty happy. Things going well with Brie then? Jesse turned to Brendan, who had entered the locker room behind him. Yes, things are going better than I could have hoped. I'm glad you convinced me to give her a shot. Brendan's face fell, and he rubbed his chin. Yeah, don't go thanking me just yet. Her friend Ariel is at the front desk asking to talk to you. Me? What for? Jesse had heard Brie talk about Ariel, but he'd never met her. What on earth could she want to talk to him about? Brendan shrugged. I'd rather she tell you herself. Trepidation seized Jesse as he slung his bag over his shoulder and headed for the front door. Was something wrong with Brie? Had she decided he wasn't rich enough for her? That seemed unlikely, but it was a fear he couldn't get out of his head. He pushed open the door to the foyer, and a dark-haired girl looked up. She was thin and pretty, and she oozed money. Jesse did not miss her designer shoes as she stood and clacked his direction, nor was he oblivious to the expensive bag slung over her shoulder. Ariel, I'm Jesse. What can I do for you? He extended his hand towards her, but she ignored it. I know who you are, but I have some information you don't know. Brie is playing you. See, we made a bet. She was bored and wanted to have a little fun, So I bet her she couldn't get a guy to propose to her after a month. You were the target, and my brother Cade was the prize. If she could get you to propose, I'd set her up on a date with my brother." Anger and disbelief filled Jesse, and a vice-grip feeling squeezed his heart. Could Brie do such a thing? He had found it odd she would want him over Brendan or Carter, but he didn't think she would do such a thing. Had she been pretending the last few weeks then? "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I want my friend back. She spends all her free time with you. I guess she is having a hard time convincing you to propose. So I don't care about the bet anymore. I'll set her up with Cade whether or not you propose. At least then I'll see her more." She tilted her head at him as if making sure her words were sinking in. Jesse shook his head, but he couldn't find the words. "You couldn't honestly believe she'd want a commoner. Brie comes from money, and you could never support her the way she's used to. But Cade is a famous actor. He has the money to support her lifestyle."
"I see. Well, thank you for letting me know."
Jesse felt deflated. He had opened his heart to Brie even after his own hesitations. He should have known to trust his gut. "You're welcome." She flashed a smile, but to Jesse it seemed more malicious than endearing. As he watched her leave, he wondered what to do about Brie. He was supposed to meet her tonight, but he no longer felt the desire. However, he also didn't want to just stand her up. No matter what she'd done, no one deserved that. With a heavy heart, he trudged to his truck. Why did he seem to have such rotten luck with women? Was he just destined to remain single? As he pulled out of the parking lot, he decided to stop at Java Hut and tell her in person he was calling their date off that night. He didn't really want to affect her work, but it was the best solution he could think of, and he knew she would be getting off soon. He pulled into the parking lot right at 4. Brie should be heading out any minute. He took a deep breath as he thought of what to say to her. Before the thoughts settled in his head, the door opened and she appeared. She hadn't been expecting him, and he could see the surprise register on her face as she spotted his truck. Being bright blue, it didn't blend in easily. A smile lit her face and she hurried his direction. Jesse turned off the engine and stepped out to meet her. "Hey, I wasn't expecting to see you here." Jesse folded his arms.
"I wasn't expecting to come here, but I got a visit today from a friend of yours."
Confusion clouded Brie's eyes and she shook her head. "What do you mean? Why do you sound angry?"
Jesse scoffed. "I sound angry because your friend told me these last 3 weeks have meant nothing, that you pursued me to win a bet so you could date some movie star."
Brie's hand flew to her mouth and her blue eyes widened. He wanted to see more confusion in her gaze, but there was a sick realization that shone through.
"How could you do that, Brie? People's emotions aren't toys. I thought you were different."
"I am. I did make that bet with Ariel, but then I got to know you, and I fell for you, Jesse. You have to believe me."
Brie reached out to grab his arm, but he pulled it away. "Believe you? You've been lying to me since we met."
Tears flooded Brie's eyes and she shook her head. "I haven't been lying to you. I may have pursued you because of that bet, but I kept seeing you because I liked you."
"But not more than this movie star? Were you really going to dump me the moment I proposed to you?"
"No. The more I got to know you, the less I wanted Cade. He's arrogant and dismissive, and he never paid attention to me. I bet Ariel didn't tell you I called the bet off, did she?" Jesse blinked, but said nothing. Ariel hadn't mentioned that fact, but did it really matter? Within the first week, I told her I didn't want to do that to you. You changed me. This job changed me. Please, Jesse, I'm not the same girl anymore."
"I don't know, Brie. I need some time to think."
Jesse ran a hand across his beard and tried not to crumble at Brie's dejected expression. Brie's lips folded into a tight line and she nodded. She looked like her tears would win any moment, and he didn't want to see that. It might cause him to change his mind, and he really needed to think through everything before he made a decision.
"A few days. Just give me a few days,"
he said, and then without waiting for a reply, he climbed in his truck and drove off. As Brie watched him drive away, pain like she'd never felt before blanketed her. She walked over to a nearby bench and sat down, letting the tears fall. Why had she ever taken that bet? And how was she going to convince Jesse that she cared about him? Suddenly, words from a recent sermon popped in her head. God whispers in our pleasures. He speaks in our conscience, but he shouts in our pain. Brie closed her eyes and opened her heart. Lord, please tell me what to do. I don't want to lose Jesse, but even more, I don't want to do anything that would cause him to stumble. Help me to know your will. Brie sat there another few minutes, just waiting and listening. Though no clear voice spoke to her, a sense of peace descended, and Brie knew it would just be a matter of time before she would be able to discern his will.